The ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia has morphed into a complex and deeply entrenched conflict, marked by strategic military operations, extensive humanitarian crises, and significant geopolitical consequences. As this situation continues to develop, particularly in the strategically vital Kursk region, both nations find themselves engaged in an increasingly relentless struggle, underscoring the high stakes and global implications of the conflict. Since the onset of hostilities in early 2022, Ukraine's military strategy has focused on disrupting Russian supply lines and logistics, employing a series of well-coordinated attacks aimed at crippling Russia's military infrastructure. One of the most telling examples of this strategy occurred on September 13th, when Ukrainian drones targeted an oil train in the Zaporizhia region. The resulting explosion not only inflicted significant damage on vital logistical channels, but also exposed the vulnerabilities inherent in Russian supply chains. Each successful strike contributes to a broader campaign designed to weaken Russia's military capabilities, illustrating Ukraine's unwavering resolve to thwart its adversaries' ambitions. This conflict is not merely a series of battles. It is characterized by a comprehensive military strategy that integrates both conventional and unconventional warfare. Ukraine has harnessed innovative tactics and advanced technology, utilizing reconnaissance drones as a pivotal component of its military operations. These drones provide essential intelligence, enabling precise targeting of Russian positions and installations. This technological advantage has empowered Ukrainian forces to execute strikes with remarkable effectiveness, inflicting substantial damage on Russian troops and infrastructure while minimizing their own casualties. The combination of cutting-edge technology and strategic ingenuity has allowed Ukraine to maintain the initiative on the battlefield, forcing Russian forces to react to a rapidly evolving and increasingly precarious situation. Additionally, the use of social media and digital communication platforms has become a vital tool for Ukrainian forces, helping to rally support both domestically and internationally. This has fostered a sense of unity and resilience among the Ukrainian population, as well as bolstered international awareness and support for Ukraine's plight. The ability to communicate directly with the world has not only helped to garner military aid, but has also highlighted the humanitarian crisis unfolding as a result of the war. Despite Ukraine's offensive successes, Russia has sought to counter these maneuvers with its own operations in the Kursk region. The Kremlin has aimed to consolidate its military presence and reclaim lost territories, yet these efforts have often been hampered by internal coordination challenges. Russian forces, composed of various brigades and divisions, struggle to operate cohesively, leading to inefficiencies and vulnerabilities in their combat effectiveness. Reports have indicated that conflicting directives from different command levels have resulted in confusion and delays in operational execution. This lack of coordination has become increasingly apparent as Ukrainian forces continue to exploit weaknesses in Russian deployments, emphasizing the critical importance of operational unity in modern warfare. In response to the mounting challenges on the battlefield, Russian military leadership has issued orders for its troops to regain control over Kursk, framing this objective as a strategic necessity. However, the realities on the ground present formidable obstacles to the execution of these orders. Reports indicate that Russian forces have experienced staggering casualties, with an estimated average of 200 soldiers killed daily since May. This ongoing attrition has strained Russia's military resources and raised concerns about troop morale and sustainability. The high casualty rates have necessitated drastic measures from the Kremlin, including the offering of financial incentives to attract new recruits. However, the effectiveness of these new soldiers is frequently called into question, particularly given their lack of experience and training, which undermines the overall combat effectiveness of the Russian military. Moreover, reports of desertions and morale issues among Russian troops have surfaced, with some soldiers openly expressing their reluctance to engage in combat. This has created a significant gap in operational capability, further exacerbating the challenges faced by Russian commanders on the ground. As Ukraine continues to demonstrate resilience and adaptability in its military strategy, The psychological toll on Russian soldiers may increasingly impact their willingness to fight, presenting a critical vulnerability for the Kremlin. In contrast, Ukraine's military leadership has maintained a steadfast focus on liberating occupied territories and dismantling Russia's military presence. The Ukrainian strategy appears to center around a combination of attrition and counteroffensive operations, aimed at exhausting Russian forces while simultaneously expanding defensive lines. This dual approach allows Ukraine to exert continuous pressure on Russian troops, capitalizing on their weaknesses while conserving its own resources. By maintaining a flexible defensive posture, Ukrainian forces can engage in guerrilla tactics, striking swiftly and retreating to more secure positions when necessary. As the conflict enters its third year, its implications extend far beyond the immediate battlefield. The war has significant geopolitical ramifications, influencing relationships between nations and altering the balance of power in the region. As Ukraine seeks to assert its sovereignty and reclaim its territories, the actions of both sides will resonate far beyond their borders, affecting international relations and security dynamics across Europe and beyond. The ongoing conflict has prompted nations to reevaluate their military strategies, alliances, and defense postures in response to the evolving threat landscape. The humanitarian impact of the conflict is profound and cannot be overstated. Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced, and the ongoing violence has inflicted severe suffering on civilian populations. Reports indicate that over 14 million people have been forced to flee their homes since the start of the war, with many seeking refuge in neighboring countries or within Ukraine itself. The international community has responded with a mix of humanitarian aid and military support for Ukraine, underscoring the urgency of addressing the needs of those affected by the conflict. The war has prompted discussions about global security, energy dependence, and the necessity for collective action in the face of aggression. Efforts to provide humanitarian assistance, shelter, and medical care for displaced populations have become critical components of the international response as the scale of the crisis continues to escalate. Furthermore, the impact of the war on infrastructure cannot be underestimated. The destruction of homes, schools, hospitals, and essential services has created a dire humanitarian situation, with access to basic necessities becoming increasingly limited. The long-term implications of this destruction raise significant questions about recovery and rebuilding efforts post-conflict. As countries grapple with the influx of refugees and the need for reconstruction, the challenges posed by the war extend beyond immediate military concerns. The psychological toll on civilians, the disruption of essential services, and the strain on neighboring countries are all factors that will influence the post-war landscape. As the international community watches closely, there is a growing awareness that the conflict in Ukraine serves as a litmus test for the efficacy of international alliances and diplomatic efforts in addressing aggression. The responses of NATO, the European Union, and other global powers will shape the future of collective security frameworks, prompting discussions about the need for enhanced cooperation and readiness to counter threats to sovereignty. Countries that have historically maintained neutrality are reevaluating their positions, recognizing that the principles of territorial integrity and sovereignty are under threat in a changing global order. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict are ongoing, yet they face significant obstacles. The Kremlin's insistence on territorial claims and Ukraine's unwavering demand for sovereignty create a stalemate that complicates negotiations. As international mediators attempt to facilitate dialogue, the entrenched positions of both sides highlight the difficulty of reaching a lasting peace agreement. Trust remains a scarce commodity, as each side questions the motives and sincerity of the other. The role of international organizations and non-governmental organizations in facilitating dialogue and humanitarian assistance becomes increasingly critical as the conflict drags on. The United Nations and various NGOs have mobilized resources to address the immediate needs of affected populations while also advocating for diplomatic resolutions. However, the challenges remain substantial, as entrenched positions and mutual distrust hinder progress toward peace.